Hello everyone, my name is Katya, who are you? I'm from Russia and in a couple of weeks I'm going to the United States for the first time in my life. I've been speaking English for more than 10 years. As in many parts of the world, we start learning English very early in college. It's a long process, and in this video I'd like to share my experience of learning English, and also it's a good practice for me before my journey to practice my accent, because when you speak you actually start speaking better. So don't judge me, it's just my first video on this channel. My experience with English is interesting, and the story, as I said, starts in the year 2004 more or less, where we started learning English from scratch in our primary school. Apart from that, I speak Spanish, I speak French and Chinese a little bit, so I don't know why, but English was the first language I had to learn, and I had no idea how to do it. In my hometown, no one speaks English like in your daily life, and I just remember my parents used to listen to music, and they were putting songs in French, in Italian, in English as well. They were listening to the Beatles, for example. And my mom once heard me repeating the lyrics of the song Yesterday, and I was like saying cualquier cosa, as we say in Spanish. Like I was saying something that had nothing to do with the letters, with the lyrics of the song, and my mom was like, no, okay, just stop right here. And she wrote the lyrics for me in Russian, like in Cyrillic, and just put in something similar to what it was in English. And I was trying to pronounce it better, and since then I was I even now remember I was singing something like nada no way, like it had nothing to do with, you understand, when we hear a language we don't know, we try to imitate, and it has nothing to do with the original lyrics. So my mom and dad were not speaking English, but they learned it at school, I guess, and at this stage, in first years, obviously they could help me to learn some basic stuff. And I just remember also, like, very early I was there on the kitchen with my mom, and she was explaining to me that the more I articulate, the better I would sound in English, and that first maybe my classmates would make jokes and they wouldn't like understand why I'm doing this, but finally they would respect me for speaking good. I just remember that. I think even if like she didn't speak it well herself, she didn't know how to speak a language or how to learn it from scratch, but I think this from that point, at least I was trying to pronounce it better, pronounce it in a way that sounds more authentic. Then, I don't know, since I was 13, I used to have a tutor, and I remember that I didn't understand anything, I wasn't learning. I remember this first lesson, the girl was speaking English and French, and she would like, okay, change the to be verb to like all the forms, forms of the pronouns. And I was like, I am to be, you are to be. And she was like, no, what are you saying? So I had no idea. And finally at school, I was more or less okay. I remember I changed my college like in a year more or less, or maybe this is why I was having this tutor, because I changed the school and they were already talking about like these continuous tenses. I just simply didn't know. I only knew the simple forms of the verbs. So since then I was more or less okay compared to the other classmates, but still I wasn't the best. So it was really hard for me to have progress and to understand the logic of the tenses, because for us English is something really different. And when you have no experience, maybe you understand me, because when you live in a city where everyone speaks your language and that's it. And in Russia there are other cities where you have just a second language, a local language. In Russian is the official language. This is why you can have both. But that was not my case, and still, when you are 15, you're already an adult. Like your brain works in a certain way, and it's not used to other grammatical structures, other way of thinking, because this is what you do when you learn a language. You learn a different way of thinking. And when I was 15 exactly, I was already thinking of entering the university. And I was living in this small town, Kostroma. From there, normally you can enter any university in Russia for free if you had good marks. So if you pass the 3 official exams well and you have a certain amount of points, then you can enter for free. I was about to move to St. Petersburg, and I started preparing because I understood that if I want to study marketing or something business related, it's inevitable to pass this exam because it's what they require from students who enter those kind of professions. Right, so I was working with, again, I had one more tutor, and she was cool. She was like 40 years old. She had a daughter, and her job was to, I don't know exactly what she was doing in my hometown, but in summer she was like traveling on those cruises, on the large ships at sea, with Americans. So she had a really nice accent. She knew all the I don't know, cutting edge modern phrases, and she actually, like, I remember I was crying with these exams because the official exam has a certain structure, and I was having this large text and I don't understand anything, and the test is always, super tricky. And my mistake with English was that I didn't know how to do it, and it was a very different language, so I was simply I never watched the films, I didn't listen to music, and my English was very artificial, like from books. And when you have a real text, you have to understand those little things. It's way more than simply learning words. I didn't know that, I didn't watch anything. So this is when they were giving me those large texts there, I was starting already feeling really down. And actually, when I went to the exam, I was feeling awful. I remember I was sitting next to the window, and simply at some points all of my papers flew away because of the wind, and I was super stressed. But finally I got, I think, 89 out of 100 points. It was the best result out of all my college. I don't know, there were people who took who had like 30, 35, 50, and I was like 89, the best. And then I entered this university in St. Petersburg. It was the Graduate School of Management. It was a great university. It's a faculty of St. Petersburg State University, and back then they were founded like in collaboration with some American university. I don't remember the name, Babson College, I think. So it was always very English oriented. I mean, all the materials, there were professors from all over the world finally, and the education was really practical. It was super cool, and this is why we had to speak English very well. So we entered, and they decided to divide us into groups according to our level. And the first group, like number 1 out of 20, I think, that we have in all our cohort, it was like guys who went for 1 year to the United States, who were speaking so well. They were like stars for me, and I was in group number 5. It wasn't as bad, but still I couldn't speak properly. Like I couldn't react. I was really trained to solve those exams, and that's it. All right, and we had 3 classes per week, and from there we could actually learn how to communicate. It was really nice classes. After 4 years, I had like C1 level. We passed the exam of C1, we had to, but I still didn't speak really well. So I still didn't watch many things in English, like we didn't have many foreigners to practice with. There I had my first contact with one group of Americans. It was the year 2015, 14, 15, over there. And they were traveling to India, China and Russia, and we had an opportunity to talk with them. And we exchanged Instagrams back then. It was so cool, so unusual for me. Afterwards, I was living with foreigners more or less, those who lived in Russia or abroad. Only in my masters, I think. Well, let me see. Like in my masters, I had all the masters in English, everything in English. So obviously, I can speak. Just the feeling. After my master programs, I developed my own system to assess your language level, and there it has to do with your psychological state, how you feel when speaking a language. And you start with, I'll make a different video about it. You start with an alien. When you understand nothing, you can say nothing. Then you go to visit to a guest, to someone who already has spent some time there, understands some of the words, can pronounce, explain simple things, but like it's still there, just a guest. You're not part of the world. And then you become a visitor who already can more or less explain his or her ideas, express himself, herself, but it's not the native level. And the fourth level would be native, like local, I call it. So you are one of them. You understand jokes, you're psychological, feeling yourself really well relaxed. Even if you don't understand something, it's not a problem. You just ask. After how many years? It was more than 10 years learning English, but I was still there. Blah, 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 blah. And back then I started learning Spanish, and it went super quick for me to learn Spanish. I went to Chile to my exchange, and there I was still not the best speaking English, but the best speaking Spanish. So Spanish was way more similar to Russian, and I liked it. After that, I had an internship in Malaysia. I lived in Switzerland first, and then I went to Malaysia because I didn't find a job in Switzerland. I decided, okay, I go somewhere really far away where I would go as my dream place. And in Malaysia, they were speaking English, and they responded really quickly. I got this internship in Food Panda, which was part of Foodora, Delivery Hero. In Europe, the company was based, but it's a huge company in 40 countries. So there was my first English speaking country. And the first day I get to my office, I wasn't understanding the joke they were making. It was of some new cultures, and there I had to speak English every day, and it was they spoke really good English, and there I learned. And only after this I became more fluent, more confident, self-confident when speaking English. This is pretty much my story. After that, I came back to Russia to found my own project for foreigners in Russia. It was in English as well. It's called Who Are You? This is why I still have this name from back then. It was nice times. I was organizing Trans-Siberian trips for those who don't speak Russian, who can't find a place to live. So it existed for some years, so I was working in English and I could practice it daily as well. But after that, I decided to open my channel in Spanish, and my job switched to Spanish like this. I speak more Spanish daily than Russian, so I'm already a bit let's say, losing my Russian skills. No. Now, for the first, I've never been to England, to the UK. I've never been to the United States. I have many people who've been there, who lived there, who speak really good English in Chile. There were people from 20 countries. I had this double degree diploma. It's called SAMS. And there were such stars. There were people who spoke English like natives. So I hope this trip to the United States, I go to Chicago for 3 weeks. in 3 weeks. I hope it helps me to get back to my good level, to explore the culture and to learn a lot of new things that are hard to translate, but you learn them when living there. So thanks for watching this video. This is my story with English. Let's keep in touch. I'll share everything from that journey. I plan posting every day. I don't know if I can, but this is the idea. Follow me on social media, Katya, who are you? And I will be happy to see you back in my next video. Ciao, ciao!